that we all look at and you look at as you try and make your investment decisions. Now you need to help the people at home figure out what they should look at. Please explain what is relevant to the investor in terms of numbers, earnings, and other reports, et cetera.
Yeah, it is a good question, Scott. Thanks, Ernie. The reason it's a good question is because the things we traditionally look at, like earnings, are very difficult to look at right now. You don't know how to project the earnings going forward when we're in an economic shutdown that we don't know when we're coming out of. So what you need to look at, most importantly, in my opinion, is the balance sheet, okay? You need to look at the balance sheet, how much cash is available. You need to look at companies that have debt. When is that debt due? If a lot of it's not due for 3-4 years, may not be such a big problem, but you need to start thinking about cash burn versus the cash on the balance sheet. So in times of stress like this, it's balance sheet, balance sheet, balance sheet. I hope that helps, Ernie. Good question.
Appreciate it, Jim. All right, Weiss, to you from Jim in Naples, Florida. Your take on Charles Schwab.
Look, it's a high-quality company, but that doesn't mean it's a stock I want to own. They, like the banks, have interest. They generate interest revenue on the balances that you have in your brokerage accounts. They also have margin debt. Now, the margin's not an issue, so forget about the write-offs on those. But they're not going to make much money with rates where they are, so it's not a stock I would own. I'd avoid the financials completely.
All right, Dr. J, John DeJarian coming to you from Thomas in Illinois. Carnival, wow, is that a buy at this price?
I don't believe so, Scott. I think the buy was a couple weeks ago, but I did buy the bonds, and I plan on holding those a long time, Scott. They're yielding nearly 12%.
Okay. Amy from David in North Carolina, comments on a potential long-term growth of Teladoc.
We like Teladoc a lot. We bought it last year. It was fortuitous timing. Obviously, we didn't know that telemedicine would go through the roof this year, but we think the trends are still there, and you know, at a $12 billion market cap, it still has a lot of runway here. All right, Michael Farr to you from Arvind in Connecticut. Which is a good long-term stock, J&J or Abbott?
Arvind, yes. Absolutely. Both of them. Pick either one. J&J has a better dividend, AAA balance sheet. You know, Abbott, they're just both great companies, maybe better management at Abbott. Both great companies. I'd buy. I own both, and I'd continue to buy, but probably not on a day like today, maybe on weakness.
All right. We're going to do a bonus round, too, because we've been getting so many questions, and we want to try and get to as many of them as we possibly can. So, Jim Lebenthal, I'm coming back to you from David Wessendorf. He asks about Roku. Roku, anyone? What do you do?
I told you at the beginning of the year I wasn't going to trade it on momentum. I was going to see if I could right? Still just overvalued. And I saw the good news the other day. But I'd like to see this thing down closer to 6 times sales before I can even start to fathom the value of it. We're way above that right now.
Steve Weiss, coming to you from John in Austin. What about Micron, MU?
I love Micron. I added to it recently. Their numbers are good. DRAM prices, memory prices are moving higher. It's one you want to own for now and hold through this cycle.
All right. John from Jerry in San Jose. Dr. J, with all of the uncertainty of corporate earnings this quarter, can traders still effectively use the implied moves on the options chain, or does it make no sense right now?
No, it always makes sense, Scott, because they're basically pricing in more volatile moves mean wider swings in the market. So virtually everything that we look at has wider swings projected, either just 1 week out, Scott, or 3 weeks, 4 weeks out. Once you get further out on that curve, they do start narrowing up, as you'd expect. So hopefully that plays out that way as well.
Okay, Amy, on gold, quickly, what do you have on gold for us today?
We like gold. We added to gold last year when countries are debasing their currencies. You want to be in gold. I think it gives you protection in a lot of different scenarios. So it's at recent highs, and we think it goes higher.
Michael Farr, do you have a take on IBM? I just got one in from Michael Karen. Says, where does the panel see IBM post-COVID with their new leader and directions? Do you have a take on that stock?
Yeah, it's more constructive now, and certainly at these prices. Management is good, solid valuation. The dividends, I mean, it's coming back. Microsoft is not your father's Microsoft. I'm sorry, IBM is not your father's IBM.
Freudian slip. All right, we're going to take a quick break.
Yeah.
We'll come back with final thoughts.
Ask Halftime is sponsored by Interactive Brokers. Minimize your cost to maximize your return.
There's a lot of sameness among online brokers these days. IBKR stands out in the crowd. We offer the lowest trading and borrowing costs. Our clients have the choice of investing globally.
Jake,
or
turn off your
stocks,
microphone,
options,
please.
Futures,
Mute your
Forex,
microphone,
bonds,
Jake.
and funds from a single integrated account. Our premier technology enables you to optimize speed and efficiency, perform sophisticated portfolio analysis, and manage your accounts. Start investing today at ibkr.com.
Our retirement plan with Voya gives us confidence.
Yeah, they help us with achievable steps along the way, so we can spend a bit now, knowing we're prepared for the future. Oh,
Surprise!
we renovated the guest room so you can live with us.
Oh, well, I'm good at my condo.
Oh.
I love her condo.
Nana throws the best parties. Well planned, well invested, well protected.
Voya. Be confident to and through retirement.
1 in 5 Americans have left a job due to toxic work culture. SHRM research shows almost half of the workforce has been treated unfairly due to age. People with disabilities are twice as likely to be unemployed. Nearly 700,000 of the formerly incarcerated will remain unemployed for over a year. And more than 50% of veterans have trouble finding work. These individuals have been constrained for far too long. Tearing down biases at work is good for people and business. Together, let's create better workplaces and a better world.
Ever since we've gone mobile on the Now platform, something's gotten into the office.
I hear you. Feels like there's no barriers between departments now.
ServiceNow, a smarter way to workflow.
You enter the market, only to find unpredictability around every corner. That's why the wise investor turns to one of the most secure investments on Wall Street, or any street. Assured Guaranty, the proven leader in municipal bond insurance.
I want to remind you our coverage continues tonight. Breaking news on CNBC with our special report, Markets in Turmoil. I'll see you at 7 o'clock. Please join us then. Again, 7 o'clock Eastern Time tonight. We have several calls on Wall Street today, and I want to get to a couple of them before we go. Jim Lebenthal, I see Raytheon was reinstated as a buy at Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, this is one I like. Frankly, I don't own enough of it, but the reason I like it is the diversification. It's not just aerospace, it's defense as well. And within the aerospace, it's not like I've got to worry about whether Boeing's going to get the 737 MAX up. These guys put engines on all sorts of planes, civilian, defense, as well as the missiles from Raytheon. I like the portfolio here.
Weiss, you were bragging the other day about all the Pelotons that you bought. We got it. You got like 5 in the house now. The stock was initiated by at Roth Capital. The target was 38.
Yeah, it's up 25% from when I started bragging about it. Look, to me, this is a benefit of what's going on with coronavirus. It's a premium product, sure, but it is, when you break down what the cost is versus a gym membership, it's compelling. So I love the stock here. Maybe it's a little bit ahead of itself. I don't know, but it's definitely going higher from where it is, based upon the installed base continues to grow.
I mean, I'm being facetious. How many do you have? It wasn't 5.
No, I've got one in my house, and my daughters each have one.
I think the number you used was 3. I think the number you said was 3.
3.
3. Michael Farr, leave us with a quick thought on what you're going to be looking for the rest of the, maybe the rest of the week for us.
You know, I think if we get a little bit of a pullback, we can upgrade in quality. So I think you can do some selling of your lower quality stuff when you get days like this, and that increase the quality trade like Mohamed El-Arian has suggested. I'm all in.
All right, good stuff. Good seeing everybody. Thanks for watching. Kelly picks it up now.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you as well, Scott. Hi, everybody. We have a sell-off across Wall Street today as investors digest bad economic data, weak earnings, and sinking oil prices. Wish I had better news to share, but look at the Dow. It's down 524 points right now. That's a better than 2% drop. The Nasdaq remains relatively solid at a 1.5% decline. Now, when we say bad economic data, we mean really bad. The Empire
Good morning, everybody. We'll begin in about 2 minutes.
Good morning, Mr. Hassey.
Hey, Anthony. Good to see you again.
Sorry I was late today, too.
You weren't that late. All right, good morning, everybody. Hope everybody is well and doing fine. Let's start today's class. Couple things to note, and we've talked about these on Monday. You have an examination. It's now been posted to Blackboard. If you go to the examination file folders, you'll see your examination 2, which is on chapters 6 and 9. That work is due Sunday, April 19th at 9 p.m. 9 p.m. Now, just one thing to note, if you can't make that 9 o'clock deadline on Sunday, don't worry about it, all right? Relax, no stress, okay? This is accounting, no stress, if accounting can be no stress. Oh, speaking of no stress, happy non-tax April 15th day. If this was a regular year, you would be looking at Mr. Hassey, who would look frazzled, probably hungover, probably in rough shape because of today is income tax day. But today is not income tax day. Thank you. That's one thing I can thank about, the only thing I can thank of the coronavirus is I do not have to sweat out tax return day today. It's been postponed until July, which is kind of nice. But happy income tax day. For any accountants in the audience, that is a major day in your life as you go through your career. But besides that, we do have an examination. It has been posted to Blackboard, and as I was saying, it's due on Sunday at 9 o'clock. If you cannot make the 9 o'clock deadline, you can post later if you'd like, and there will be no grade challenges because of that. If you're going to post on Monday, let's say, just let me know via email, Mr. Hassey, is it okay if I post on Monday? That's fine. You can even post it by Tuesday if you so desire. So whoever that is. You can post late. Just let me know that you're posting late, and that's not a problem, okay? So do not get anybody all whacked out for the 9 p.m. Sunday posting. If you need some extra time, take the extra time. It's a 4-question examination, and we'll take a look at it a little bit later this morning. one question from each chapter, one question we have either just looked at on a quiz or we have looked at in review in class. So that is our work for this week, due Sunday, but that Sunday due date is flexible, just for you all to know. Today we're going to concentrate on looking at budgeting, problems 9-1A and 9-4A from your textbook. Perfect examples of a master budget, perfect examples of a cash budget, which you need to be familiar with for the examination. Next week, we'll talk about and go into the next level of budgeting, which is responsibility. Hey, you screwed up. Hey, you did a great job. How did you know you screwed up or did a good job? The actual numbers versus the budgeted numbers. It's called variance analysis, and that's called responsibility accounting. We will take a look at that next week in chapter 10. But before we get to that point, we have to go through the process of our second examination. This examination is 25% of your course grade. It can be in the format of a spreadsheet or a Word or PDF document. Might be easier for some of you to do it in a spreadsheet because you can do your calculations, but it's not required. You just put it in the format that you feel comfortable with. That is fine. Just make sure the format you have it in, most specifically if you have it in a Mac or Apple environment, make sure that file is changed over to a Microsoft Office environment. That can be easily done in today's world of technology. Just make sure you post a Microsoft Office related file, and then we'll be in good shape for me to grade it. All right, so that's where we stand. I want to show you something here. We're not going to go through this hand by hand or number by number, but this is problem 9-1A in your chapter. And it talks about preparing all the different budgets that make up a master budget. And remember on Monday, we talked about the most important thing to get out of chapter 9 is two things: the definition of what a master budget is and the process of budgeting, and number two, preparing a cash budget. Well, 9-1A is a perfect example of what makes up a master budget. And 9-4A, which we're going to look at in a minute, is a perfect example of preparing the necessities of a cash budget. So again, this is what a master budget is defined as. It's a series of, this is a company called Cook Farm that's putting together a budget for 6 months. That's 2 quarters, all right? They're doing a 6-month plan or a 6-month budget, and this is their plan for 2 quarters. And sales, this is what they expect to sell at the expected selling price. Production, if they have to produce 40,000 units to sell and $56,000 units, how many units are they going to produce over these 6 months? All right, the desired level of finished goods. What units are they going to need to produce to supply 40,000 units and 15,000 units in ending inventory and 56,000 units in sales and 18,000 units in inventory? This is their planned production budget. Now remember, again, don't be right. You don't have to worry about the specifics of these budgets. Just know the definition of what makes up a master budget. You're not going to be asked, and you're not responsible for putting together all these budgets. So we go from the sales to the production budget to the direct materials budget. How many materials am I going to have to order and plan for to produce those number of units that I did in my production budget? Then there's the direct labor budget. How much labor is going to be spent on the production of these units that I need to produce based on the production budget? Then there's the selling and administrative expense budget. See, these budgets will drive you crazy after a while. And this is, again, period costs of a company. The other costs besides production that you have in your business, all right? The selling and administrative expense budget. Then you have what is called a budgeted income statement. expected collections, expected payments, and then the final cash budget of the company. This is what you need to be responsible for, but we are going to put that together in this problems 9-4A. The cash budget. What do we expect to produce and collect and spend over the course of a period of time, putting that all together into a cash budget? And we'll look at that in more detail in just a minute. But we talked about this on Monday. The cash budget is key to a company because you cannot plan if you cannot have cash. If you don't have cash, you can't pay your bills. You can't pay your investors. You can't pay your employees in paychecks. You can't buy your materials. You can't spend on advertising. Without knowing where your cash is coming in and the process of it coming in, and are you going to require borrowing of money? Are you going to have to pay dividends? Are you going to have to pay interest? Are you going to have to pay back debts? This is something that companies have to get a handle on, or they are not going to be in operations. One of the key things I was watching before we have class, a lot of you don't see this because you come on after the 10 o'clock hour, but before class I play a business channel called CNBC. And CNBC was talking about this morning how the market is down. And one of the reasons why the market is down this morning is many companies have no idea what's going to happen to their cash positions and liquidity going into the summertime. We have no idea because of the stoppage of revenue, how many people we've laid off or furloughed, how many people are we saving, how much cash are we saving? Do we have to pay back our debts? Do we have to borrow more money? A lot of companies, that is an unknown these days, and they're trying to determine their cash requirements, more specifically called their cash liquidity. And the cash budget is key to all this. But going back to problem 9-1, again, it's putting together a series of budgets to prepare what is called a master budget. And that's the definition that we talked about on Monday. The master budget of putting together a series of related budgets for each different segment of the company and combining all those into one whole budget. Your responsibility is just to understand the definition of those master budgets. The cash budgets, again, get that dog out of there. And again, the cash budget is, again, determined what you're going to have to actually put together. Now let's take a look at problem 9-1. Let me bring that up here. Or 9-4, excuse me. Problem 9-4, we're asked to prepare a budget for 2 months. Now remember, when preparing a cash budget, you have to concentrate on two areas. Money coming in and money going out, all right? Money coming in, cash receipts, and money going out. But you have to remember, money coming in can be in different format. Cash sales, collections of receivables, all right? Money coming in could also be loans. Money going out can be the payment of loans, the payment of interest, the payment of payroll, the payment of supplies and materials. It's all in the format of when cash is coming in and cash going out. So here in this problem, the Coulter Company, you're asked to prepare cash budgets for the next 2 months, all right? And based on the data, their costs, their sales, based on how they collect their money, based on how much of materials they pay in cash or on accounts payable. All these have to do with the collection of cash, the spending of cash. It's a little bit different than what we've been doing in the past as far as planning or journal entries or understanding costs. It's all has to center itself on is cash. Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this problem, I want to show you a brief video that explains this process. And here we go.
In this exercise, we will see how to prepare a cash budget. A master budget is a set of interrelated budgets that constitutes a plan of action for a specified time period. The master budget contains two classes of budgets: operating budgets and financial budgets. Operating budgets are the individual budgets that result in the preparation of the budgeted income statement. These budgets establish goals for the company's sales and production personnel, whereas financial budgets focus primarily on the cash resources needed to fund expected operations and planned capital expenditures. Operating budgets include sales budget, production budget, direct materials budget, direct labor budget, manufacturing overhead budget, selling and administrative expense budget, and budgeted income statement. Financial budgets include the capital expenditure budget, the cash budget, and the budgeted balance sheet. Here, we will focus on cash budget. The cash budget shows anticipated cash flows. The cash budget contains three sections: cash receipts, cash disbursements, and financing, and the beginning and ending cash balances. The cash receipts section includes expected receipts from the company's principal sources of revenue. These are usually cash sales and collections from customers on credit sales. This section also shows anticipated receipts of interest and dividends and proceeds from planned sales of investments, plant assets, and the company's capital stock. The cash disbursements section shows expected cash payments. Such payments include direct materials, direct labor, manufacturing overhead, and selling and administrative expenses. This section also includes projected payments for income taxes, dividends, investments, and plant assets. The financing section shows expected borrowings and the repayment of the borrowed funds plus interest. Companies need this section where there is a cash deficiency or when the cash balance is below management's minimum required balance. Let us now look at an illustration to see how a cash budget is prepared. Using the information provided, we are required to prepare a cash budget of red orchards for January and February. We will begin with January. The beginning cash balance of January is $32,000. To determine total cash available, cash receipts is added to the beginning cash balance. For red orchards, the cash receipts include collection from clients and sale of equipment. Note that the company expects to collect 60% in the month of sale and 40% in the first month following the sale. Consequently, only 60% of sales made in January will be collected in that month. By multiplying 60% by $270,000, the total collections from clients in January is $162,000. Cash receipts from sale of equipment is $18,000. By adding $162,000 and $18,000, the total cash receipts is $180,000. We thus determine the total cash available to be $212,000. Next, we will deduct cash disbursements from total cash available to calculate excess or deficiency of cash available over cash disbursements. Cash disbursements in January include payments for direct materials, professional salaries, and overhead costs. Cash paid for selling and administrative expenses will be $40,000 less $3,000 depreciation, or $37,000. The total cash disbursements in January is thus $197,000. By deducting the total cash disbursements from the total cash available with the company, we determine the excess of cash available over cash disbursements to be $15,000. To maintain a minimum monthly cash balance of $30,000, the company will borrow $15,000 from its local bank. The ending cash balance of January is thus $30,000. The ending balance of January becomes the beginning balance of February. The company expects to collect 60% in the month of sale and 40% in the first month following the sale. Thus, in February, collections will include 40% of sales made in January and 60% of sales made in February. Collection from clients in February is thus $300,000. Interest received on investment in February is $5,000. The total of cash receipts in February is thus $305,000. By adding $30,000 and $305,000, the total cash available is $335,000. In February, cash disbursements include payments for direct materials, professional salaries, overhead costs, equipment purchase, and income taxes. By deducting $3,000 from $35,000, cash paid for selling and administrative expenses is $32,000. We thus determine the total cash disbursements in February to be $253,000. By deducting $253,000 from $335,000, the excess of cash available over cash disbursements is $82,000. Since this is more than the minimum cash balance of $30,000, the company need not borrow from the local bank. However, the company owes $15,000 borrowed in the previous month plus the interest of $1,200. Thus, total repayments in February is $16,200. By deducting $16,200 from $82,000, we determine the ending cash balance in February to be $65,800.
Okay. Pretty exciting, huh? But the good thing about this is, and let me go back. I'm going to go back one little point here. Stop it right there. Remember when he said, and this is something that you guys might have missed, but it's going to be something that I'll catch you on in every examination that has to do with budgeting. Notice in the problem they have $1,200 of, selling and administrative costs include $3,000 of depreciation. And notice with a selling administrative cost of $40,000 in January, on our cash budget, it's only $37,000 because the person who was putting this together subtracted the depreciation from the $40,000, subtracted the depreciation from the $35,000. Why did they subtract depreciation? Raise your hand. Don't raise your hand. Is because depreciation is a non-cash expense. You don't write a check to Mr. or Mrs. Depreciation. It's a non-cash expense. So this is where I'm going to catch you on a cash budget. All the cash budget figures are listed here, all right? Or you have to figure them out for the cash collections. But if there's depreciation in a certain line, you have to subtract that from the expense because it's a non-cash expense. Make sure you note that depreciation for future reference. Depreciation is not included in a cash budget because it's not cash. You're not writing or a check for depreciation. Depreciation is an accounting entry. No more, no less. So kick it out of the cash budget. That's Professor Hassey's I want to get an A on examination 2 tip for today. All right. Make sure you know how to handle depreciation because it is non-cash. All right. You'll thank me in the end for that one. Okay. Now, also for people who are in our class today, and we are missing some students, I am recording this class. It will be posted later today to our YouTube playlist in YouTube for our class, Accounting 202. The class recording will be posted there. Also, the link to the YouTube playlist will be posted in Blackboard in the Zoom YouTube links file folder. You click on that link for today's class and you can watch the class again. And some of you, when you are working on the cash budget, you might want to look over this section again as a recording to help you with doing that cash budget. This is a great review that this instructor did for preparing Red Orchard's cash budget. All right. Well, now that we've seen that little video and a little place that we know we can go to and look at, let's make sure we go to here. Let's bring this back up again. So here's back to problem 9.4a. Mason, can you see this 9.4a on your screen? Thank you, sir. So again, just like the last problem, you're doing a budget for January and February for 2 months, and you're asked to, and you're given all the sales, but also you said the collections of the sales are 50% in the month of the sale, and then the next month you collect 30%. So we're going to collect 50% cash of January, and then 30% of January in February following the sale. So just you have to pay attention to these. Here are credit sales. Here's our purchases of direct materials and so on. So you have to get these organized. Look at this one. February, there's talk about other disbursements, the payment of a cash dividend, all right? All kinds of things you have to be aware of. So again, we're going to put together in this problem for a review, we're going to put together a schedule of collections, a schedule of payments, and then we're going to put all those together into a cash budget for January and February. And here's how this looks. Again, these problems are posted in Blackboard. You can use these as a template, and you can use that video as a template to do that. So here we go. So here's our collections. How much money are we collecting in the period, all right? Well, remember, our sales are $360,000 in January, but our credit sales are also going to be $250,000. So we're going to collect our credit sales at different times during the period and different areas of location. So again, that tells us this information. Our credit sales in November were $250,000. December were $320,000. We're going to collect a portion of those in January and in February. Also, we're going to also have collections of sales. So here's our collections of expected collections from customers. $326,000 in January, $372,000. This is not cash sales, this is credit sales, all right? A certain amount of sales that we have on credit. In other words, we send out invoices and how much we collect of those invoices every month. $250,000 of credit sales in November. We collect 20% of them in December. All right, $320,000 in January, excuse me, $320,000 of credit sales in December. We collect 30% of those. $360,000 of cash sales given to us in the problem. We collect 50% of that. That equals $326,000. So this gets a little bit confusing, and it just requires you to make sure you understand the specifics of the cash collections. So look at February. The November collections have now been all collected. December, when we collected we had credit sales of $320,000. In February, we collect 20% of those. That's $64,000. The January $360,000 cash sales, we now collect 30% in February. For February, we have $400,000 of cash sales, of which we collect 50%. We get $372,000. So it just requires you to making sure you're disciplined enough to sort all this out and put it in a specific format. Look at the expected payments for direct materials, how much we plan on spending. It tells us in the problem we're going to purchase direct materials, $120,000 in January, $125,000 in February. But at the same time, December, we purchased $100,000, of which we're going to pay now, or pay on that 40%, because it was a build. We have to pay 40% of the $100,000 December sales. All right, we pay 60% of the $120,000 January sales, and we don't pay anything in February and January. So there's $112,000 of payments for materials. Notice it's different because some of these sales are owed. It's a payable, and we pay those payables in different periods of time. Then we get to the putting all this together into our cash budget, where not only is it payments collected from customers, which we did that schedule of 326 and 372, and it's not only disbursements of direct materials, 112 and 123 that we just looked at. It's the collection and the and the payment of other things in the problem. Notice we start out with $60,000 January 1. We collect collections of $326. In the problem, it tells us that we collect $15,000 of a note receivable. We collect that. And so we have total $341,000 of cash coming in. That plus the $60,000 gives us $401,000. There's cash going out is the materials. They tell us that the direct labor was $90,000, overhead was $70,000. All right. Selling administrative expensive, and the problem, it was $79,000. It's $78,000 here. I wonder why. I bet it's depreciation. So we have total depreciation, our total disbursements of $350. That less the 401 gives us $51,000. $51,000 of available cash. That's our ending balance. Then we start off $51,000 in February. We go through the collection process. There in February, they tell us they sold some securities. There's no note receivable collection, but there's sales of securities in February. That gives us $429. There's the materials, the labor, the overhead, and selling administrative expenses. It was $85,000 on the problem. We have to subtract out depreciation, $84,000, just like we did on that video. And we paid a dividend in February of $6,000. So we end up with a cash balance of $41,000. They tell us in the problem that the company has a minimum cash balance. Hold on, I got to stop this for a minute, just a sec. Mason, what the hell are you doing? Are you outside now? What's going on there? You got to tell me.
Yeah, I'm outside right now.
All right, where is outside? Where is that?
Orange County.
Orange County. What city in Orange County?
Lake Forest.
Lake Forest. So,
dog barking.
all right, what's the name of your dog?
Cruz.
Tell Cruz
the
to shut.
one that I brought in earlier. I tell him to shut up way more than I need to. He barks at me for every little thing that I do. It's annoying.
You know, here I am sitting in my office. Anthony is in his dark room. We're all in our other terrible places in our home, and you're sitting out here in the middle of friggin' Orange County, enjoying the weather. So very impressive.
It's nice out.
I'm really going to look over your examination too with a fine tooth comb because of this to make sure I catch everything. All right, thanks, Mason. Thank you. Now shut up. All right. Now notice in this problem, going back to this cash disbursement and cash budget, the company says we must maintain a $50,000 cash balance. At the end of February, they only had $41,000, so they have to go and borrow some money in February, $9,000 to get to the $50,000. Now, does that really mean that this is actually going to happen? No. All right. But it's a plan. It's telling us what we think, if everything goes accordingly, what we need to spend, what we need to sell, what we need to pay in dividends, what we need to borrow money with our depreciation, what all this puts together. We know in February we got to borrow money. In January, we don't have to worry about that. It's called a cash plan. You can't tell me that Avo Kashishian right now at 10:36 in the morning, sitting in Founders Hall at University of Laverne, is not sweating over his cash budgets this morning. Guaranteed he is, because his cash budget has all been thrown out of whack because no students are living in the dorms. No students are going to the dining hall. No students are going to Barb's place to have a sandwich. No students are going to athletic events and need buses. No students are going to the Lewis Center to work out. No students are going to Landis Hall and listen to Hasse talk about cash budgeting. That has all changed. So now managers like Mr. Kashishian are trying to make sure how their budgets have changed. And I know in the case of almost 95% of the companies, including the University of Laverne, they're going to have cash shortfalls. because revenue's not coming in, even though they're missing out on some expenses, they're going to have cash shortfalls. That's why the federal government passed the CARES Act 2 weeks ago. $2.5 trillion to help. Do you guys know this? Of that $2.5 trillion, $400 million went to colleges and universities. Do you know that University of Laverne out of that got $5.2 million from the CARES Act, coming to the university to help them with their cash shortfalls? Do you realize that $2.8 million of that $5 million is going directly to students for grants and scholarships to help them get through this time period? You guys should check with your financial aid office about that one. Emergency funds. We're getting money from the federal government to help us out manage our cash budgets. Not only the university, but students. Anthony, question.
So these checks that come in, we won't get charged interest later with them?
No way. It's free money.
There you go. This is mine.
You already got it?
Yeah, I got this one. I got in February, and this one I got yesterday.
Now, is this what are these for? I don't. Tell me just briefly.
They both say Banner Refund Clearing.
Oh yeah. What that is they're giving. You lived on campus, correct?
Yeah, for the first semester.
So the university is reimbursing you for that payment for those months of not living in the housing. Also, you're probably getting a little bit of maybe you got some extra money from your financial aid, and they're kicking that back to you.
Oh, okay.
But if you don't know the specifics of that, you should find out because there's a lot of money coming in to universities. You know, $5 million. Some people might say, well, big deal, but that $5 million is going to help Avo Kashishian balance his cash budgets. And at the same time, some of that money is going to students to help them through these difficult times. You've probably seen and heard President Lieberman talking about emergency funds for university students if you need some money to help you. This is what this money is used for, to balance your cash budget to make sure you have significant liquidity. And this is why this is so important for companies, is to plan this out. And when things happen like the coronavirus, when like let's say something happens with weather, you get a tornado or an earthquake or whatever, having these budgets in advance lets you have the ability to manage your business better should these things change and you know what happened. That's why this is such an important aspect of managerial accounting. You're managing your liquidity. You're managing your cash budgets. So you're putting this together, something like this, in your examination. Here's an example, problem 9.4a, and the examination and the example in that video I just showed you shows you the importance of making sure you can separate when you have costs and sales, and when those costs and sales have to do with the expenditure or the collection of those costs and sales, the collection and the receipt of cash, and how you manage that is in a cash budget. Huge. I hope some of you down the road in your own personal financing down the road will also prepare so you know what cash you need to manage your life. Probably not, maybe not now, especially if you're living with your family, but down the road, you will need something like this so you can manage. So when Anthony gets a couple checks in the mail, he doesn't go out and spend it on Amazon.com. He puts it in the bank and says, okay, I'm going to keep this for a day when I'm going to need some money. And that's exactly what you should do, or how you plan it. Now, there's nothing wrong with going to Amazon.com, especially go ahead, because I own stock in the company. But besides that, it helps you manage your money. Okay, so that's the cash budget. That's the master budget. Those are the key points of Chapter 10 that you need to be familiar with. All right, now I want to show you something here. Hang on. Before I get to this, again, I had the same problem. Tanner, you're okay with this. I had the same problem in my class at 8 o'clock this morning. Nobody wants to show their face. What's the problem? I have 4 students out of 23 that are showing, of 24 are showing their face. What's the deal? You guys, are you guys that scary looking at this time of day that I don't? There's Zinya, thank you. All right, there's nothing wrong with showing your face. All right. Now, if you don't want to, I don't want to force you, and that's not. It's not a big deal. But it's nice to see that you guys are. I'm getting sick of looking at Cameron all the time because he's a good-looking guy. But every week, every day, every class, I need to start seeing. There's Chris. Very good. And you got a shirt on. Thank God for that. Last class, he didn't have a shirt on. So at least. And there's Mr. Richard. He looks good in his hoodie. That's nothing wrong with that. So, show yourselves a little bit. Celeste used to show me all the time. Now you don't even show me. I don't understand that one. So let's see you guys a little bit in class. It's nice to see you. You're all a good-looking group of guys. You're a lot better looking than me. I'll tell you that right now. All right. So here, there's Cerise. Cerise, it's the middle of the night where Cerise is, and he's up in Adam looking good. Cerise, what's going on? Anything I should know about?
It's good right now.
Good. All right. Again, what time of day is it there?
1.
And what city are you located in?
Bangkok.
1 o'clock in the morning in Bangkok, and Cerise is online. Let's put that on the Instagram, University of Laverne. That's pretty good. All right. And there's Mr. Thorson. It's about time. And Michael, nice to see you, Mike. Good play. Nice to see you. And there's Aiden, who always seems to look like he's in some foreign alien spacecraft. I don't know what the story is there with alien, but there Aiden.
This is a really old computer, so it's
okay.
Shitty.
So your memory and bandwidth is not too cool. Okay.
That's why I just don't show my face. Look.
But he looks like he should be in a Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah, it looks like he's in like a 50s movie.
Yeah,
no,
it looks
it's like
black and white.
It's shitty, so
looks like
that's why I don't show my face.
Now you can't use bad language on the air, so watch yourself.
I apologize.
All right.
Come on, Aiden. So good.
All right.
Watch yourself.
Aiden looks like he's like in the 1955 movie Them. I mean, something's going on there. All right, so that's pretty good. So good. Thank you for at least some of you showing me yourself, and it's nice to see you all. Okay, now I was going to show you this. Let's get back to the real world here. There we go. Okay. All right, here's your work for this weekend, due Sunday evening. And as I mentioned earlier, you do not have to post this at 9 o'clock if you need some extra time, okay? You do not have to post this. You can post it in whatever format you desire. If you want to put it in a Word or a PDF file, fine. For many of you, it might be a lot easier to do this on a spreadsheet and submit it because it can do the math for you, the arithmetic. So again, I've given you, these are samples. We've talked about these in our quizzes. Excuse me. Got to take a drink of water. I'm getting choked up here. We've talked about these in our quizzes. We've looked at these in our review problems. One question from Chapter 6 is asking you to determine the dollar amount of the sales break-even point for this company, Lazaro. Question number 2 is to prepare an incremental analysis of Speedy Bikes, an alternative that they have of selling this bike or producing this bike for another area. An incremental analysis. Chapter 8, question number 3, is to tell me what the target selling price should be for this company. Based on their cost, what should they sell their product for with a 30% markup of their costs? What's their target selling price? To do that, you have to compute the variable cost per unit, fixed cost per unit, total cost per unit, and determine their targeted selling price with a markup of 30%. And finally, question number 4 is to prepare a cash budget for this company with a beginning cash balance and the necessary information. Notice it's only for one period of time. Mr. Hasse is such an easygoing guy. You don't have to do it for 2 months. It's just for 1 month based on the information given here. Tell me what their cash budget projection is for this time period from Chapter 9. So those are 4 problems you need to put together. Now, don't scrimp. Remember, this is not like sitting in Landis and you got an hour and 15 minutes to do it. You got 4 days, even 4+ days to do this. Take your time. Make sure you show all your work, either in whatever format you're doing, and make sure you show all your answers and how you got those answers. Just don't put down, Mr. Hassey, the break-even point is $20 million. I need to see how you calculated the $20 million. If you just give me $20 million for question 1, and that is the correct answer, I'm going to take 10 points away from you. Why? You could have called up some dude and had them do the problem for you. Of course, you could have had called up some dude and they could have done the problem for you and sent it to you. But besides that, I want to see you calculate the break-even point. Show me the calculations. Show me how you did it. If you do not, and just give me an answer, I will not give you full credit. All right? That's the difference between online and in class. In class, you can get away with a little bit of that. Online, you got to show me the complete answer. Remember that, everybody, please, because I know somebody's going to get upset when I mark off 5 points or 10 points on a problem, and you said, hey, I just looked at your solutions, Mr. Hassey, and I got the problem right. You didn't show me how you calculated the problem. Make sure you do that. You got plenty of time to do that. You don't have to give it to me at Sunday night. You can give it posted on Monday. You have plenty of time. Even though you're in the Twilight Zone world of Aiden, you have extra time to do that. He's in another dimension. Take a look at him. He's in another dimension. He's in another world. Now he's going to there you go. He's in another world, but he has plenty of time to do this. So everything will be fine. But please, the difference between online grading is I look for all the details. I look for all the details. Everybody nod their head. Did they get that? Thank you very much. They look at all the details. So make sure you do that in your work. All right? That's a very important part. This examination is now posted in Blackboard. If I go to my Blackboard site, there it is right there, under examinations. You click on examinations, and there is examination number 2 to download and begin your work for Sunday. I've given you 2 formats. It's the same examination. One is in a PDF and one is in a Word doc file. You can give me Excel spreadsheets, but it's the same test. So don't worry like you're getting 2 tests there. It's the same test. So on Sunday or whenever you are ready to post your work, you click on the examination file folder and you upload your work so I can grade it next week and send you the results with my notes on solutions for examination number 2. That is now available. Again, if you go to the Zoom and YouTube links file folder, people, you will see our class recordings of every class. Here's Monday's class. You click on that link and up you'll be linked to our YouTube playlist, and you can see the recording of Monday's class. You can even watch the recording in Mason's backyard in Lake Forest or wherever he is. All right. Today's class will be posted here later on today, April 15th class recording. You can review it again. All right. Those are just areas that you can concentrate on. Note, if you go to every week, like this week, this week is week 10. You click on week 10, there's my introduction video that I did at the beginning of the week to introduce you to the week. There's our solutions to our problems and some descriptions of the material that are important for this area. So again, make sure this information is there to help you do links. I have a chat question. What's the chat question? The test says it's due 26. What did we say? Thank you, Tanner. We have a typo announcement. Yeah, that should be Sunday, April 19th. Sorry, guys. Sunday, April 19th. That's a typo. Sunday the 19th. Forget the 26th. Thank you, Tanner. You just got some brownie points. April 19th is the test date. That is Mr. Hassey up last night worrying about his taxes and made that a mistake, so I apologize. Sunday, April 19th is our test date, and yes, it should be the 19th. I apologize. Let me go back to that, show you again. Yes, April 19th, and I will correct that in Blackboard. I apologize. Thank you, Tanner, that you saved my you-know-what on that one. Okay. Now, the last thing before I let you go today, and again, thanks. I appreciate all your work and all your efforts to keep this alive, and hope you're getting something out of this. Make sure you fill out the course review review that was sent to you by email last week. We talked about this on Monday to let the university know how you are doing with this new platform and format. I know the university is very concerned about making sure that you're getting what you should be out of your courses. The professors are giving you the information you need and doing this properly. So your feedback is good. I've gotten some other feedback personally from some students, and I appreciate you all doing that. And let me also, again, besides the class, let me know if you have any other concerns. I know many of you are in environments of learning that are tough. You're sharing an office, or you're sharing a dining room, or you're sharing a kitchen table, and you're doing your work with your brothers and sisters, or you're with Mason sweating it out in his backyard. You got a lot of different situations, and sometimes those situations do not produce the best concentration to do your studies. If that's a problem with some of you, let me know, because I need to know that. I'm trying to give you the examinations to match or to help you in your environment that you're learning in. And if that's not working for you, you got to let me know that, or let somebody know that, because that's important. That's why I have a kind of a loosey-goosey way of posting your examinations. If you can't get it done Sunday at 9 o'clock, you can post it Monday. You can post it Tuesday. So just keep that in mind. That's an important thing to know. Anybody have any questions or concerns for me right now?
What's your background, Mr. Hassey?
What is my background? Well, I'm really an unemployed, my background, Anthony, didn't I say that at the beginning of the class? My training throughout my life was investment banking. I was an investment banker. I helped companies get money. I helped companies manage money. And that's what I did for most of my career. And a couple of years ago, I sold my business to my employees. And I'm kind of just an old gangster retired now. But I've been teaching at Laverne for over 30 years. Been teaching even when I was doing my regular real world stuff. And once I completed or sold my business, the university asked me to teach a few more classes. And that's why you guys are stuck with me for accounting. Because my original training in business was I was an accountant for many years, and then I switched over to the investment banking business. So that's my background.
You're an OG.
So now I'm an OG ex-banker. That's why I slam banks all the time. I know they're a bunch of crooks. Oh, I got to watch what I say. All right. Any other questions? Thanks for the question, Anthony. Any other questions? Mason, you better put on some sunscreen if you're going to stay out there the rest of the day. Seth, you need some lighting. You don't need sunscreen. I can't even barely see you, but you need some lighting. There's Seth. Good job. Seth, are you able to get outside and shoot a little hoops in the backyard or anything during this time period?
Yeah, like at the local church outside area.
Good. That's good. That's good. Because that drives you nuts if you can't do things that you like to do.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you, Cerise, try to get some sleep. I know you probably have a later class, but try to get some sleep. And you guys take care. Be safe. If anything pops up on that examination that you have a question on, feel free to ask me. I don't know if I'll answer it, but feel free to ask me. And good luck. And post that by Sunday, April 19th at 9 p.m. or later. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Be well. Adios.
See you next.
Have a good
See you later,
week.
Mr. Hassey.
See you, Mr. Hassey.
See you guys. See you, Mike.
See you, Professor.
Adios. See you, Zingya. See you, Chris.
Oh, actually, I have one question.
Okay, Mike has a question. Go ahead.
Wait, so for the the walking appointment today from 1 to 3, is this the same link?
No, it's a different link. If you go to the Zoom links file folder in Blackboard, you'll see a link for our office hours.
Okay, got you. Thank you.
Okay, Mike. I'll see you later.
All right. Bye.
Palm, are you there, buddy? All right, Palm, I'm shutting it off, buddy. Adios.